Just over 6 months ago, I knew what time it was, I knew what day it was, and I knew what date. And I knew what was happening a week ahead. I had a plan and a schedule. And all of that has quickly gone out of the window. Now that I've taken up this new life living in Malaysia and filling my days with making videos and content, days and dates no longer seem to mean anything to us. I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I don't have a schedule that I need to follow, and it's kind of thrown me a little bit. It's taken a bit of time to adjust to that. And just only a matter of days ago, I was doing a house sit for a couple here in Malaysia, and I knew the sit was coming to an end on the 29th of March. I just didn't know what day that was happening, and in the end I ended up making a bit of a fool of myself because I emailed or I WhatsApped the couple to say, hey, you're coming home tomorrow, and they were like, no, we're not coming home for another 3 days yet, because I just glanced at my phone and looked at the wrong date and was completely out on those schedules. It's the first time I've really had any kind of responsibility other than just my wife and I for the last number of months now. And so I was just reflecting on that a little bit, what a weird feeling it is to no longer think about days or dates. Days don't really mean anything. A Saturday and Sunday is no different from a Monday or a Tuesday. I remember talking to my dad about this when he retired. He would often ask me, when's this happening? What date is that? When's Easter? When are the schools off? When are you back at work? And I wondered, like, how do you not know this? And I've realised that when you just step out of a working environment, when you step out of like a 9 to 5 or a shift pattern, the days and dates just have no real meaning to you. It's quite a relaxing feeling, but it's also just a little bit bizarre. And so, you know, I had to apologise to that couple because I felt like a bit of a twat, if I was honest, sending them a message like, oh, you're coming home tomorrow, hope you've had a great holiday. And they were like, no, tomorrow's the 26th, we don't come home to the 29th. And I said to Yvonne, God, how have we got this so wrong? And it was just a realisation that to that couple who are teachers, dates are important, but to us, it means nothing. So I was thinking about that and I thought I'd share it. Now here's a second thing that I hadn't really realised. We travel super light, right? I have a bag, Yvonne has a bag. That's all we have left of possessions. Everything else was gone in the UK. We sold every major item that we had to downsize. But that means living out of one bag, you have to condense things down. So I have one pair of shoes, and I have a pair of those like barefoot shoes, kind of like flip-flops that I wear around the pool. But recently I've started to have a super sore ankle, like tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, I think you call it, if I've said that right with my Scottish tone. And luckily I was in the mall here and I was going to buy a new pair of flip-flops, right? But every time I'm walking barefoot, my foot is just not sitting right. And there was a store in the mall that actually could do a 3D scan of your feet. So I went in and said, could you do it for me? He sent me a printout. And then I ran it through AI and I gave it a task of like, you're a podiatrist, read this report and tell me what's going on. Said to me that I have a fallen arch in my right foot from a childhood injury that I got playing football. And it means that my heel and my toes are taking all the impact and not much else in the middle of the foot. And it suggested that I actually buy the insoles that came recommended from the store. So I went back and I bought them. And I've been wearing them for the last couple of days and what a difference it's made. So I've ended up spending £40 on insoles and £40 on a new pair of flip-flops that actually have an arch built in. Now, I find that a struggle to just spend that money now, right? Because I kind of look after the pennies and I've laid that money out and I've got to say what a difference. Just in a matter of days, my feet are no longer burning. But these are the little things that you don't think about when you're traveling light, right? I don't have like 4 and 5 pairs of shoes that I can just flip between. I have one main pair of shoes and these barefoot, which are now in the bin. But you don't think about this stuff. Now, here's another little story for you I wasn't expecting. See, when I was doing that house sit the other day, I was out taking the dog for a walk. It was about 6:30 in the morning. Now, Malaysia is predominantly a Muslim country. I think it's about 55% Muslim country. And obviously there are differences in cultures between having pets, particularly things like a dog, right? And I've noticed that when I'm out walking, I'm 6'1" tall, I'm covered in tattoos, I have generally a shaven head and I'm white. Kind of stand out when I'm walking around here. Even more so when I'm walking a dog. People were getting out my way, and I was being very understanding of this and making sure that I was keeping the dog tight on a leash. I was out the other morning at 6:30, right? Streets were dead, and a car drove by me just close to the Petronas Towers, and they shouted out at me, "F you and F your dog." I wasn't expecting that on I think it was a Saturday morning in the middle of Malaysia, to be told to F off and F the dog, not even my dog. But these are little moments that, tourist videos and the blogs and all these kind of things about moving abroad maybe won't tell you, but it was a rather interesting experience that I had the other morning. Right, now here's a slightly different one of all of that. I had an email from a viewer, a guy called Hans, who's from the UK. He was out here travelling with his family and asked to meet up for a coffee, and I agreed. And I went to the coffee shop and I met Hans, and we were just getting introduced to each other, ordering our coffees and sitting at the table, and another gentleman was making eye contact with me. And he was kind of like, and I'm like, do I know him? Does he know me? And he came over and he was like, "Oh, I've been watching your YouTube videos," right? And so his name was Brian. I invited Brian to join us. So me, Brian, Hans, we sat at a coffee table I was having tea, they're having coffee, for about 90 odd minutes, maybe longer, chatting. But that's the prelude to the story. Afterwards, Hans emailed me and he said, "Oh, thanks so much for catching up. It was really good to meet you in person. Maybe if we catch up again before I go home or whatever else." And then he asked me the question, does that happen all the time to you? Do people recognise you? And I had to be honest, right? And I was like, no, that's the first time it happened. But see, in the moment when Brian came over, I had to kind of just pretend that this was like totally the norm and kind of just brush it off, whilst inside I'm like, my God, what is happening here? I'm just a dude on the internet that talks about leaving the UK and all that stuff, and I wasn't expecting this moment, but I was trying to be cool about it, right? I was like, "Oh, how you doing, Brian? Nice to meet you. Thanks for watching the videos. Do you want to join us? This is Hans." Hans probably thought, "This guy must do this all the time." Definitely not. That was a very new experience, was meeting somebody that watches the videos. If you ever see me out and about and you've watched these, right, come and say hello. And also, when I first moved out here, I was a bit nervous to meet people, and I came out the back of the big move and ill health and my dad passing away. I wasn't really ready, but that's changed now. So if you are out here, or you're in any of the areas that we're moving around to, Thailand, Vietnam, Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, let me know. We'll try and catch up at some point. Right, the last of these stories, right, one that again I wasn't really expecting. Do you know how much of a luxury it is when you go into somewhere that's got a washing machine? I think we've only stayed in 2 apartments so far that have had a washing machine. You've been able to wash clothes. The rest of the time we just do them hand wash in the sink, little bit of detergent, we wash our stuff through, we hang it up in the room and it dries pretty quickly. But see, when you get access to do it in a washing machine, it does feel like a luxury. In that last apartment we were staying in, on the house sit, had a washing machine and a tumble dryer. See, washing clothes through, you get them clean and it just feels like a deeper wash. Can't tell you like Yvonne's excitement in doing that, and my just like, oh yeah, you just clothes feel clean. Again, when you're living out of a bag, right, a washing machine is a luxury. It's just, these are just the small things that don't get included in like guide documents, right? Nobody talks about this kind of stuff. It's not glamorous. It doesn't bring in hundreds of thousands of views. These are just the realities of living out of a couple of suitcases, but that was the goal when we left. Own very little, travel light, not have to put the brain power into worrying about stuff. And that's kind of how we live. So, most people write about visas and flights and kind of all those other things, but nobody talks about the little things like getting heckled out of a car when you're out for a walk with a dog, being told to F off, or finding that a washing machine is a home comfort that you kind of miss sometimes. All right, if you are traveling and you have any of these, let me know down in the descriptions and the details below. And in the very next video that I make, I'm going to give a 90-day roundup of our costs in Malaysia, income and outgoings. That will be my next video post. So look out for that coming soon. Thanks for watching.